Bruce Slade, Director of Bloodstock in Newgate, Henry Field, Managing Director at Newgate. Newgate, we've just set our stud fees for 2023, our 14-strong stallion roster, and I thought that it'd be a great discussion with you, Henry, to add value for breeders, to give insight into breeders. We're lucky enough to talk to you about these things on a daily basis and have a very frank and open discussion about the setting of our service fees when we go through that process. So I thought it'd be great to, have you today to talk through each stallion, give us an idea of how that fee was established, and also give us a feel for where you see that stallion in the marketplace currently. So we'll kick off shortly and start from our highest service fee and work our way down. But firstly, this time 13 years ago, you started Newgate. How do you honestly feel about where you're positioned currently?
Yeah, I think it's been an incredible ride, Brucey. I don't think back that much. I always like to think forward, but to think we have 14 of the best and most commercial stallions in the Australasian breeding industry standing on the farm is something I'm very proud of, and it's something that's been built up by a really strong team at Newgate, a wonderful group of people that we work with every day, and obviously Gavin Murphy and Matthew Samwell, my partners in the farm. It's been a team effort, and it's I think we're all very proud of where we sit.
Yeah, excited to where we're going to go with the racing team going so well this season too. But let's kick off, I guess, at the top. Extreme Choice, $250,000 plus GST this season. He's exactly what you set out to do.
Yeah, he was an unbelievably good racehorse. He was, I think, the highest rated Blue Diamond winner in 30 years. Beach Attacker and Amoya. He's by not a single doubt, and he's, on facts and figures, the best stallion in the Southern Hemisphere. He's achieved incredible things from very small opportunities. Golden Slipper winners, Oaks winners, Champagne Stakes winners, Coolmore Classic winners. And that's just these Group 1 winners. He's got such an array of stakes winners. Even Don Corleone this year, who runs so incredibly well in the Blue Diamond and the Golden Slipper and the Size Produce. He's a phenomenal stallion. He gets a small foal crop every year, and every single year he outperforms every other stallion numerically in Australia.
And I suppose the exciting thing is the best crops to come. I suppose what breeders really want to know out there is, if you're not a shareholder, can you get access to the horse? And if you can, how do you see the best way to use them?
Yeah, there's limited bookings to the horse, obviously. There's no secret that we bred him to a very small number of mares and manage his fertility as best we can. We've priced him at $250,000 plus GST, which, that sits in the realms of Schnitzel, I'm Invincible, and he's an elite sire, like they are. The kicker with him is that there's such a small foal crop that his progeny like gold dust, because there's such a small supply of them, and so the demand is significant for them. I think if you've got the key is probably to breed a very fertile mare to him, breed ideally a young fertile mare to him, and the way he went last season, he's really going well, getting his mares in foal, which was great, the best he's ever gone, and if you get a live foal by Extreme Choice, the world's your oyster. He is the most phenomenal stallion, and as you said, Bruce, he's crop of weanlings and his crop of pregnant mares are so far superior to any other mare he's bred before. The quality is so strong, and he's got another very, very high quality book of mares in 2023.
Absolutely. All right, Russian Revolution sitting in there at $80,000 plus GST this year. Obviously, our horse that's been booked out, been so popular. Talk us through why $80,000? Why? You could have probably been more.
Yeah, he could have. The way he's gone, he was the champion first season sire, champion second season sire. He's a son of Schnitzel. He was a crack multiple winning sprinter. He's from a huge pedigree, the Costa de Lager and Fanfaluche pedigree. So he's got every credential to say he'll go on and be really elite stallion. We could have obviously stood him for more, but we just wanted to, we had conversations with Mr. Teo and the China Horse Club, Michael Smith. We just want to incrementally build his value up. He went from 50,000 to 65,000 to 80,000, and just play the long game. And the issue with that, of course, is that there are way too many bookings for the number of mares we want to cover. So that'll put us in a good position where we can really just hone in on, once all the mares come through, once breeders put their mares up for him, we can really work through and just get him the highest quality book of mares, and he will breed like he did last year. a very, very elite book of mares. And it's always good to be in a position where you can, to a degree, pick and choose the mare quality because, as we know, good quality mares is such a huge advantage to any stallion. And I'm just glad, Brucey, that's going to be your job working through all those mares and not mine, mate. So good luck dealing with that. No, I think the reality is, I think, Bruce, if people are breeding to Russian Revolution this year, they want to breed really high quality mares to them because they're competing with all the other breeders that are only breeding high quality mares to them, given the how tough we are going to be on the mare quality of his book. So
book size, the other thing probably should mention there. It's not like we're fully booked at like 250 spaces. This is a horse that we're sort of looking after, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean we're certainly trying to keep his book in the high hundreds. Last year he bred 200 on the button, but it's never easy. But he's a very, very important stallion for the farm. So obviously we just want to manage the best quality book of mares we can, and I think he's going to be a very important stallion for the next 15 years at Newgate.
Yeah, absolutely. And Capitalist sort of, I suppose, led the season before him, did the same thing, leading first crop, first stallion at 100 winners this season. 5 stakes winners for the season. He's right,
sure.
In the top 10 stallions of Australia, active stallions right now, with only 3 crops of racing age. $70,000 plus GST. Where do you see him in the market?
I think he's the greatest no-brainer for breeders this year. I mean, you look at the Wheeling sale last week. I think he was the leading stallion by average. And obviously we bought the brother to Captivon, who was a special horse, but there was a number of nice horses in there. And his Wheeling sold incredibly well. His Yearlings at Easter sold amazingly well. His Yearlings at Magic Million sold incredibly well. We actually bought one for our syndicate out of a mare called Menagerie for $850,000, and it's early days, but just from what we're seeing so far, he'd nearly be the most exciting yearling we bought, I think, this year. He's really done well, that horse. He's got amazing books of mares coming through. Like, he's bred the last 2 seasons, just phenomenal books of mares. And, he's a really important stallion. He's a really good stallion. He's got 2 or 3 sons that start already in his first crop, which is hard to do, very hard to do. And I think when you've got that massive quality books of mares coming through on the back of his success he's had as a stallion, at $70,000, I think he's a no-brainer, and I can tell you something, we'll be aggressively supporting him. Newgate will be this season. I think he's a real no-brainer.
Yeah, and when you're looking at stallions at at 70 grand in the marketplace, when you're trying to compare him, he's just a great stallion to get a young mare off to a great, a lovely young mare that you're trying to give a proven chance to, that you still want to remain highly commercial with, and get yourself a commercial type. Capitalist is just it looks great value this season.
Well, he gets great runners, he gets fast runners, he gets early runners, he gets good runners, and he gets beautiful sales yearlings. So he's a pretty much a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, I love it. All right, from one golden slipper to another, stay inside, Henry. $70,000 plus GST, of course. A golden slipper winning son of Extreme Choice.
Yeah, I know you guys know my feelings on stay inside. I am so bullish on this horse. I really feel we've never stood a horse at Newgate that has better credentials to be a really elite sire and replicate his father, Extreme Choice. He was a great 2-year-old. He won. I remember the day he won. He won first time out. He had Robbie Dolan riding him, and he absolutely annihilated a very strong field of 2-year-olds in January. He then went to the Pierrot Plate. McDonald rode him, and he just annihilated another very strong field of Sydney 2-year-olds by about 4 or 5 lengths and a hand canter. He then went to the Golden Slipper, a very heavily backed favourite, and again was quite dominant. Very strong slipper field again. Had to beat the likes of Animo and Artorius, and a good field. He was a crack 2-year-old. He's by numerically the most elite stallion in the country. He's a son of Extreme Choice. He's a beautiful, powerful, strong, quality specimen out of an Anabar mare, and he's covered the best book of first season mares we've ever put up to a first season sire ever on the farm. I'm all chips in, and I think that he's got every credential to be really, really important.
Yeah, just to give some context, that first book, he's the best set up horse. He's had 50% of his first crop mares were stakes performers or better.
Yeah.
And 25% of those mares, he covered 180 mares, were 2-year-old winners themselves. So, we set up Russian Capitalists really well. They actually average more with their second crop yearlings than their first.
Yes.
You can see this horse doing the same, right? With
100%.
a bit of early action on the 2-year-olds. He's going to throw a cracking sort. He's a lovely year to go to.
I was only saying to a couple of people yesterday, I'll bet you his yearlings out average his second crop yearlings will out average his first crop yearlings. I'll bet you that right now because he was, he was such a good 2-year-old, and he got injured. He had an issue which came back at 3, which caused his premature retirement. But he was a crack 2-year-old, and when you get a horse that good at 2, that's by such an elite sire as Extreme Choice. I mean, a Golden Slipper winning champion 2-year-old by truly elite stallion, they very rarely miss.
All right, well, State of Rest is a new stallion for 2023. Phenomenal racehorse, 4-time Group 1 winner, of course, Cox Plate winner. He comes in at 40,000 plus GST, Henry, and I guess something a little bit different to what we've stood before. Explain how he came to be on the roster and why, importantly.
Well, in the last couple of years, as we've discussed many times, Bruce, we had an appetite to try and bring in a really good middle distance horse, but we wanted to bring in a proper middle distance horse that we thought had the credentials to really make it as a stallion. And I suppose what we identified was that those Cox Plate winning 3-year-olds have had an extraordinary record as stud. The last 20 years there's been 5 go to stud, and of course State of Rest is one of them, but so Savabeel, so You Think, so Seamus Award. Like, they've been really quite exceptional success stories as stud, the 3-year-old Cox Plate winners. Every single one of them has been a Group 1 sire. And outside of that, he was he's an iron horse, or world class, world travelled. I think he's the first horse ever to win Group 1s in 3 continents consecutively. Joseph O'Brien thought he was something very, very rare. And we're just so lucky to have got him. And it's been, what I've loved with State of Rest is we brought on a middle distance horse. We didn't know how it was going to go. I mean, I know he was very elite. He was a Cox Plate winner. But what's been great, Bruce, is just to see how well the market supported him. And he had, the minute we announced him, we had, so many of the Smarties, the Smarties, both from Australia and New Zealand, the top farms, just ring up and book multiple bookings into him. And that's, it's great because he's going to cover some wonderful mares from some of the best breeders, both in Australia and some really high-class New Zealand support as well.
Yeah, you can see the support coming from a range of different sides because he's just so versatile. I mean, he's got, if you're looking for pedigrees, by Star Spangled Banner, who pound for pound is an outstanding sire from a blue hen mare.
Well, the mare was, I'll tell you how good the mare was. The mare was bought by Juddmonte, and Juddmonte, they very rarely buy a broodmare.
Don't need to go buy mares, do they?
They go buy a mare, it's an elite, it's a seriously elite broodmare.
Yeah, and if you're trying to be commercial, I mean, you sort of feel like you can throw a nice speed mare to him. You're going to pull out the speed elements of his pedigree. Of course, Star Spangled Banner, such a great sire, precocity and speed. But also, if you want to go and breed yourself a lovely middle distance horse, you can you send that mare too, right? He's just going to cover a great cross section of quality mares, isn't he?
I think that's right, Bruce. I think he can do that, and I think he'll be very versatile. He's a horse physically. He's an elegant horse. He's probably 16, 1.5. He's tall. He's well put together. He's got lovely quality, and I think he's really going to suit. I think these Australian strong speed mares, the Exceed and Excel, the Deep Field, the Not a Single Doubt. I think those fast, strong, square Australian speed mares are going to be bullseyes for him, and we've got a number of those sort of mares pegged out for him. Hopefully, we can buy some more of those mares over the sales season for him specifically, because I think they're going to really complement his elegance and his versatility so well.
Looking forward to the first crop foals of Wild Ruler. He's at 35,000 plus GST this year, second season, of course. First foals from an incredible first book on their way. I don't think there's a better looking horse in the farm.
He's very, very good looking, and he was a very good racehorse. Like, he was so similar to Russian Revolution as a racehorse, and Peter Snowden, he would absolutely have him in the same ilk as Russian Revolution as a racehorse. I mean, you look at his race record, Russian Revolution, he was a 2-time winner at 2. Wild Ruler won English Nursery as a 3-year-old. Russian Revolution won a Galaxy, whereas Wild Ruler won an Arrowfield. Both very, very strong races. Both had to beat top-class fields to do that in their peak 3-year-old performances, and they rated very similarly. Both of them traded on at 4. Russian Revolution won a Galaxy. Wild Ruler won a Moya. Wild Ruler won a lot more prize money than Russian Revolution. He won 2.7 million. from a fairly lightly raced horse. And the great thing, I suppose, with Wild Ruler is he didn't quite handle wet ground. It wasn't his thing. If you take his wet track races out, his form was unbelievable. Whereas Russian did handle wet ground, but realistically, they're two horses going to start with almost identical credentials. And when you consider how successful Russian Revolution has been and is going to be, and is such an important horse for the farm, I think Wild Ruler is a no-brainer, especially at the fee at 35,000. He was probably our first horse booked out last year, and it's as a second season horse to see how thick and fast the bookings are coming from this year probably shows his popularity.
Yeah, really popular horse, really lovely horse. Another son of Snitzel has just joined the roster in the Congo. We talk a lot about natural front-running speed as a great indicator of stallion performance. I mean, this guy was just electric fast and Group 1 fast, right? I mean, that Golden Rose win, beating Animo, where he led from pillar to post, was exceptional. But I think most of all, I'm excited just to show people him in the flesh.
Beautiful horse. But I think the thing about in the Congo, if you look at his 3-year-old form, from the start of the season to the end of the season, it was seriously elite. Like, I know he beat Animo in the Golden Rose, and that was a huge performance and a high rating performance, and he ran him into the ground. He was so fast that day. But the rest of the season, like he won the Stand Dominico at the start of the season, beating Paul Ely. He then just got lipped in the run to the Rose by Animo, the start after that. He then came back in the autumn, and he carried a huge weight in the Galaxy. I think it was 56.5 kilos as a 3-year-old, and all bar got there in the Galaxy, beaten half a length, a huge run. And then he split Marzu and Paul Ely in the Danehill. Like, he was an elite 3-year-old sprinter. He's by a champion sire in Schnitzel. He's out of a champion sprinting race mare, and one of the best mares to have raced in South Africa for in recent years. Seriously good mare in Vera Africa, who herself threw the top price yearling in Australia this year at 1.8 million. So it's a very good looking family. And I think when you get a horse that had such great 3-year-old form by such a stallion and such a mare, I think he's huge chance to make it. And as you say, his speed was electric. He would outwork everything at Gain Adrian's, which is a great sign because they train him fast there. So I think he's as good a chance as any, isn't he? Really, when you consider, if they're the ingredients that make a top sire, he ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he'll book out fast. He's going really, really well.
Yeah, he's popular. He's very popular.
He makes a lot of sense first season at 30,000. Another first season sire, Artorius. Well, a lot of people, given his race record, would say $25,000 is exceptional value, Henry.
Bruce, I wanted to stand him for more. but you talked me into it. But he's anyway, we priced him to be competitive, and he's got a host of bookings. He's been bloody popular. Thing with Artorius, he's a really attractive horse. Like he's very typey. He's like 16 hands, got great quality. We did a lovely video the other day, which I think shows him very well. He's just a typey, neat, medium-sized, quality horse, rich colour. Obviously a proper racehorse. He was a dominant Blue Diamond winner. Like, he beat really good Blue Diamond field, and he smoked them that day. He came back, and his form, his 3-year-old form was phenomenal. He placed in a Golden Rose, a Coolmore, a Platinum Jubilee, a July Cup, a Caulfield Guineas for good measure. And
there's not another. I mean, like talking about Liana doing the marketing. I mean, what sort of highlights you want to pull out? Like, there's a plethora, but like we're always going to try and pull out the stallion making performance. Like this stallion making race or that stallion making race. He was in every stallion making race.
Everyone. He came back won the Canterbury Stakes, and I'll tell you what. If you watch the George Ryder, his last start, I think even Mark Zara, who's one of the country's great riders, he said he couldn't believe it. He literally two strides past the line, he was in front of Animo, and probably warms up a fraction earlier. He's beaten him again, So, I mean, he beat him in the Blue Diamond. He probably beats him again. Like, he goes to the Platinum Jubilee. He's favourite in that race. James McDonald is riding him, and he's very, very bullish on his prospects. He goes there, and the Freedmans feel that he's absolutely humming. And, he's a bloody seriously proper horse, 25 grand, a grandson of a Dude's Choice, huge Greg Perry pedigree. He's horses like him, and he can reel off such sectionals. A very good form judge told me the other day that he's one of those few horses that can get faster every fraction, and it's a very rare thing to do. And He's 25,000. I can see. I can see why you wanted to price him that way, Bruce. But equally,
I love the way you blame him. It wasn't me, Wilf, just me. It was a team decision.
But equally, it's great. The bookings have come thick and fast, and he's been incredibly popular. So that's what you want as well. But I want to make it very clear that if he wins the Platinum Jubilee, his fee for those that haven't, if you're booked in, you're locked in. But if he wins the Platinum Jubilee, his fee will be increased.
Oh, 3-time Group 1 winner, sprinting around the world. So fair enough.
So just fair warning to all.
No, I understand. All right, North Pacific first weanlings on the ground. I think everything we expected: black, athletic, nice natural muscle definition. He's rolling into his third season now after really good support first 2 years, and he'll stand at 20,000 plus GST. Yeah,
we've got some beautiful foals by him at the farm, which is not surprising given how good looking he is. He was a very, very talented horse. He won the up and coming by 5. He just got lipped by Ole Kirk in the Golden Rose. He was lightly raced. I think he ran third to Fana and on debut as a 2-year-old in the Silver Slipper. He was a good horse. Love his foals, and he's an outcross. And I think that you'll see. I can tell you, we really like what we've got at the farm by him. So we've got probably 10 or a dozen that will be Magic Millions yearlings by him, and I think that they'll go really well. The yearling sales next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Bases loaded for North Pacific. Bases loaded for Brutal also. 20,000 plus GST. He's into his 4th season now. His first yearling sold up to $300,000 this year. I know he's a horse that you are particularly positive about. Tell us why.
Well, he was a very, very good racehorse. He he had massive 2-year-old ratings. He was an unbeaten 2-year-old. He came back at 3 and he ran second to Winks in the George Rider, and he won the Doncaster, and he came back and he beat Classic Legend when he was at his peak of his powers in the Premier Stakes, which is the main lead up to Everest. When you've got a horse that had as much ability as he did, raced at 2, 3 and 4 so successfully, and he's by a champion staying from a great female pedigree, he's a live chance.
$15,000 for Profiteer this year. He's into his 2nd season. He was just atypical capitalist. That Millennium win, that Todman run where he took Anamode in the shadows of the post to run him down. That great group of colts, that generation he was in was just an exceptional crop, Home Affairs and Stay Inside behind him. He's a horse at 15 grand age that I could see you're rolling him with a second crop yearling, and any sort of 2-year-old happenings from his first crop really assist you in the sales ring. He's really a horse I could see that could be lighting things up.
Bruce, he was the fastest 2-year-old of this year. He was an electrically fast 2-year-old, as was his grandsire, Written Tycoon, as was his sire, Capitalist. You've got grandsire, sire, and himself were pretty much all the fastest 2-year-olds, just pure speed, the fastest 2-year-olds of the year. He had enormous juvenile speed, and I reckon he's a less expensive stallion, but I think he's a great chance to get very, very fast runners. And I've actually bred some really nice mares at the farm, still last year, because as a horse I've got real confidence in. I just think anytime you've got what's likely to be the fastest 2-year-old of the year going to stud, even if he didn't win the Group 1, but he was just electric. He's a better chance than most. He really is, and he's out of a Snitzel mare. He's a sharp, good-looking horse, and I think he's a horse that people should really pay attention to at that lower level.
Absolutely. And Tiger Malay, his barn mate, entered the same year, $15,000 plus GST. Of course, a horse you'd be very, very familiar with. You purchased him as a yearling. He's by Extreme Choice, again a pre-Christmas 2-year-old. From a very precocious sire line. Again, you'd be excited about his first foals coming.
For sure. He's a Group 2 winning Group 1 place, son of Extreme Choice. We bought him off Tyrrell as a yearling, and he was bred by some very good friends of ours from Western Australia. And he was a very good racehorse. He was lightly raced. He won on debut on Everest Day and been a crack field. Came back and won a sires, and he ran third in the J.J. Atkins, and came back and he carried an enormous weight to win the up and coming as a spring 3-year-old and ran enormously well also in the Golden Rose, and then his first start back in the autumn took a bad step and had to be retired unfortunately, but he's a son of Extreme Choice with a really good race record, and anytime you've got a son of an elite sire like Extreme Choice with his race record, he's a horse that has credentials to make it.
Yeah, and it received a great first book of mares too to follow on the back
Yeah, it
of. Expect good foals from him. We've seen it with every other yearling you've purchased that's gone on to sort of enter our roster via an elite race record. We've seen it with Russian, of course. We've seen it now with Cosmic Force. I mean, he's at 10,000 plus GST this year. His first crop yearlings were just outstanding. He probably pound for pound sold better than any first season side this year.
Sold really well. I mean, he's a very, very attractive horse, Cosmic Force, and he's a pretty horse. He's got great quality. He was a beautiful yearling. Bob Hannon bred him, and he was just a stunning yearling. He was a very talented horse too. I mean, he started favourite in the Golden Slipper. It's hard to start favourite in the Golden Slipper. You know, when we stand horses that didn't win the Group 1s, they've got to be horses that we think had elite ability. We've got no interest in standing if they didn't. And in the case of him, he was a horse that absolutely donkey licked them in the Pago, won by 7. I think it's the biggest winning margin in a Golden Slipper trial in the last 20 years. He then started favourite in the Slipper, came back on the Roman Consul, beating the likes of Microphone, a good, very strong Roman Consul, which is a very important sire-making race in the spring in Sydney. It doesn't surprise me that his yearlings are so well received. He was a really talented horse, a good-looking horse, and I hopefully can take that deep field legacy on and keep that sire line performing in the future.
Yeah, no, fantastic. He'll book out quickly too, H. He's got a big supportive shareholder base, and he's got a lot of support on the back of those first crop yearlings. So if you'd like a book in a Cosmic Force, please be quick. We discussed ratings, Group 1 ratings, TAS or...
Yeah, well, you've got to give Brian Carlson credit from Emirates Park for that deal. We liked him. I mean, I remember we had a horse in the run in the Golden Gift against him first time out. The Golden Gift's it's a really important pre-Christmas 2-year-old race. It's the most important pre-Christmas 2-year-old race, and he smashed a pretty good little field of horses. Good stakes winner in second, and he just annihilated them. And that day, everyone walked away from Rose Hill thinking this horse he won't get beaten in the Golden Slipper. And he rated through the roof. Visually, he was extraordinary. Came back at his second start, and unfortunately went a miss. But every now and again, you've got to take a chance. And was a horse with uber elite talent. He's a grandson of I Am Invincible. He's out of one of the best mares in Australia. I would say she's arguably Godolphin's best mare in Essaouira. He's a huge pedigree. He had real talent. I love his stock. I mean, a weanling made 105,000 yesterday as a second crop weanling by him. So Emirates have supported him very well. We've supported him very well. He's a ticket. He's a real ticket.
Yeah, great judges, John. I think John Foote bought 3 of them. They'll be going to stables. I know Emirates Park have done a big job. They've got yearlings going to stables of Anthony and Sam Friedman, Peter and Paul Snowden, Kieran Maher, David Eustace, Peter Moody, a few others there.
They've got some amazing mares to him. I remember last year Moss Fun came through the shed to him, and that's sort of mares that they've been supporting him with. We've bred some lovely mares to him too, but Emirates Park have bred some of the best mares in their broodmare band, and they've got one of the best broodmare bands in Australia. So he's got a great. I mean, for a horse, he's low fee. He's got a much better chance than. I would say there's probably not been a $10,000 horse go to stud in recent years with a better opportunity.
Unbelievable. Couldn't agree more. Listen, a lot of exciting season ahead. I mean, it's going to be a big, busy, breezing season. A lot of stallions in there that are established and we feel like on the way up. But there's also a lot of stallions in there with their first runners coming up, their first yearlings, their first 2-year-olds. So there's a lot of stallions there that you can hit now and hopefully ride that upside with us. If you have any questions with regard to this discussion or bookings or matings for 2023, please contact our team. But otherwise, Henry, thanks so much for your time.
No worries. And I suppose I suppose I'm very bullish about the horses, but they mean so much to us, and every single one of them's on the roster for a reason. Absolutely. I suppose when I feel that passionate about them, it's because so they mean so much to us, the team, and they're the future of our whole business, and they're the present and the future of our business, and And I'm just so excited that we've got the roster that we've assembled. It really, it's what gets us driven every day and it's a wonderful roster of stallions, and I think it bodes so well for our future.